Test. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody back. We're going to reconvene back into open session. In closed session, the board considers student discipline matter 2021.01 and 2021.02. The board voted 5-0 to approve a stipulated expulsion agreement for this matter. Okay. So that's what we have to report out. Now move on to 5.1, approval of consent agenda 5.2 to 5.4. Can I get a motion to approve, please? Oh, sorry, did I miss something?
I'm sorry, I thought I only heard one and we.
Oh, no, there was two. It said 2021.01 and 2021.02.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, but thank you for checking though. Appreciate that, yeah. Okay.
I make a motion to
Motion
approve.
approved. Okay, can I get a second, please?
Second?
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, Captain.
Ms. Elva Arellano,
Yeah, aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 6.1, do we have anybody here from SRTA?
Hello, let it go. There we go. Good evening, everybody. If you don't know me, I am the Vice President for SRTA. My name is Heather Varela. I'm also a fourth grade teacher at New Republic. We are happy to report that classes are in the full swing of learning. Teachers are working harder than ever, giving up their prep times to help with other duties and to take on split classes due to lack of substitutes. We had a great turnout last week with parent conferences. Having the opportunity to meet virtually was a success and an option that most of our families took. Our middle schools continue to have challenges with their principals. We are continuing to communicate with site administration regarding scheduling meetings and proper communication in order to reach all staff efficiently. We greatly appreciate the open communication and support that we're receiving from Becky and from HR. SRTA, along with all CTA members, have anxiety over the COVID supplemental paid sick leave expiring next week on September 30th. And our executive board meeting is looking forward to a meeting with Melissa again. We met with her last year once a month, and we're starting again in October. We're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we do appreciate you joining us and making your comments at the meeting. And the board, as well as the administration, knows that how tough it is for teachers right now, given the current situations and stuff. And you have our support as much as possible. Is anybody here from CSEA? Okay, no comment. Okay. And today we have a school spotlight from John Gutierrez Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Bravo.
And my name is Sammy Flores, and we are ASB President and Vice President of John Gutierrez Middle School.
As you can see, this is a list of some of our ASB officers. I, Vanessa Bravo, am ASB President. Our ASB Vice President is Sammy Flores Castillo. Our Treasurer is Camila Camacho, and our Secretary is Angel Quintero.
These are the new teachers that have come to join us this year. We have Miss Kim for 6th grade science, Mr. Cabanella for 7th grade math, Mr. Serratos for 7th grade PE, and Mr. Miller for 7th grade RSP. We also have Mr. Harrington for 8th grade engineering, Mrs. Owens, Mr. Owens for 8th grade science, Mrs. Romero for 8th grade reading intervention and ELA.
These are some of our previously held school events, some of which include our ASB elections, our beach trip, club roundup, and our clothing drive. Our elections were held on August 27th, and our beach trip was held on September 3rd. Our club roundup was held on September 8th, and our clothing drive was held on September 13th through the 17th. Our ASB elections, we had many ASB candidates for each position. And our beach trip, it was honestly such a fun and memorable trip that not only I, but many others can, always remember. And what made it even more memorable for all of us was the fact that we had some of our most kind and dedicated teachers to be there to spend it with us. Club Roundup, that really brought together our leadership class, and it allowed us to all communicate together, to come together as a community. And we had many students come and participate and sign up for all of the clubs we had available. For our clothing drive, we had many generous donations, and we were able to gain and receive at least 30 bags of clothing.
These are the sports that are going on now at our school. We have girls volleyball, and our next game is on September 27th. We have soccer, and our next game is September 22nd. We have cross country, and our next meet is October 1st. And last but not least, fencing, and our next game is October 1st.
Some of our upcoming school events will include our first dance, which will be luau themed, and it will be taking place on September 24th, and our honorable bingo, which will be taking place at the end of first quarter. That's the end of our presentation, and we thank you all for listening, and we hope that you all found this presentation to be very informative.
Does anybody from the board want to start?
First of all, I just want to commend the students and staff at JG. These are challenging times, but I really, really love the fact that when you were showing your presentation, each and everything was not possible less than a year ago. And that is the value of education. You had elections showing me you understand how to become a good citizen and be part of the governmental process, if you will. You had club showing the ability of people to socialize, working towards a common good. You had the clothing drive to show the generosity that we try to instill in our students, and we had the beach trip to show that we want to show our students, outside of silliness, give them that expansive point of view. So, thank you for reminding me of why we do this. Those things right there, that is how we create a better future. Provide those opportunities and let the schools be the conduit, the school bus, if you will, to take you to all those places. So thank you. Thank you to your parents. Thank you to the staff. Thank you very much.
That was amazing. And you are the first students to join us in our new boardroom, so that's really exciting. The clothing drive you guys had, what was that for? Who was that benefiting?
Oh, okay, awesome.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, awesome job on that. And one of the comments I really appreciated was how excited you were about communicating with your whole group of ASB. Because that's really the key to success. If you're able to have that communication and you enjoy it, you guys can do great things. Well, you guys have proven yourselves already. So thank you very much.
Your presentation was really good. It was, like you said at the end, you hoped that we found it very interesting, and we did. And it was pretty well put together, very in order. So, and also your confidence in giving the presentation really showed that you have good leadership skills. So continue with what you're doing, and you'll go a long ways along with all of your peers. Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight and all that you do in leadership at the middle school. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you as well. It was a great presentation, and I appreciate that you guys just didn't read, but also kind of engaged us a little bit and stuff. So thank you, and to the staff and administration there for helping them out. Thank you. And a round of applause for them one more time.
I wouldn't, oh, that's what I was gonna do.
Okay, thank you, Ella.
That's exactly what I was gonna do.
Okay, and your name, ma'am? And your name? Sorry. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, no, thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know. I know. Okay. So,
Naomi, thank you for being here. And that was really great presentation. So I'm very proud of her.
thank you, bye. Okay, so now we move on to 6.4, Superintendent's Cabinet. We'll start off with the Director of MOTF, Mr. Victor Sandoval.
Well, good evening, everybody. I don't have very much tonight. However, just a bit of good news on the update of the equipment list that you approved prior. We have received our first truck. By submitting our request and POs, we have secured dates for the rest of the equipment. Tomorrow, we should be picking up the equipment trailer and the grounds trailer, and we should be seeing the rest of the equipment roughly early February and late March. So other than that, that's all I have for you tonight. So do you have any questions?
Any questions from the board or comments?
Well, you know, this has been a personal journey of God knows how many decades. Just kidding. But the fact that we're replacing that beautiful 1982 vintage vehicle that has served us so well, you know, we need to honor that vehicle some way, somehow, you know. So make sure he gets the proper, goodbyes, you know, maybe throw a little party for it, you know. It serves this district well, you know, but it's time. Do I get to drive the truck? Did you guys approve that last time? The new one. Can I drive the new truck? You gonna allow me this time?
I knew that was
I'm
coming.
not banned again? It's okay, I can drive? Just kidding. Having said all that, I'm just so happy that you know, we're updating our equipment. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? No? Okay, no, thank you, Victor, and to your staff as well.
Thank you for your support.
Next, we go to the Director of Nutritional Services, Mr. Chuck Helm.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just one quick item for me today, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but supply issues have not improved. I'm thinking that if things keep going the way they're going, we may have to look at giving the students just one option for breakfast and for lunch. That way we can spread those two options out, give us more product in our freezer, and so forth. We had a truck that didn't show up again today, so. Part of that supply issue is the equipment for the temporary serving line at Gavin View. The good news on that, though, is even though the equipment won't be here, I was able to secure some prep tables that we can serve on for the time being. And then once the equipment gets in, then we'll take the tables out, replace some old tables here in the central kitchen, and move forward. And lastly, just kudos again to our staff for being able to adapt and overcome with all these challenges, changing the menus almost on a daily basis, not receiving items, changing their shifts, working at different schools. So huge thanks to them. They're doing a great job. That's all for me.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Chuck, you know me, I'm concerned. You know, is there other vendors or I know if it is cost an issue, are there other vendors that we can possibly go to that might be, you know, a little bit more expensive, but they'll be more reliable? Is that an option, or is it just all across the board?
It's pretty much across the board. We have three main vendors for our food, and they typically sell the same item. So when one doesn't have it, I reach out and try to get it from another. It's just proven to be challenging. I did an order yesterday and from Cisco, and I was going to get like eight different line items, and I think seven out of the 8 were out of stock. So it's just one of the things that we're going through. We're riding it. You know, nobody's not eating. The supplies are the biggest issue, but you know, we're getting through it. So
No, I once again, thank you, Chuck. I'm sure you're probably, pursuing all that. And I'm just asking, please continue that search. And if we can find a better vendor, even if it's out of state or whatever, and costs a little bit more, I'm willing to entertain that as far as my position on the board. Feeding the students is paramount, and I know you have a huge task. And so, if we have to spend additional funding, if that's an option, I would like to consider it. But please do whatever you have to do to get our students fed. Thank you. I support you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to you and your staff. I know that this is really beyond your control, and I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing to mitigate this situation.
Okay, thank you for the update to your staff as well.
I just had one quick question. Chuck, when you said one or two instead of two options, is that because you guys give a snack or two breakfasts, or how does that work? Like one in the first break or second break?
No, since I've been here, we try to give them two options. So a student comes through the line and they can choose between two different meals, basically. So if we could take, for example, pizza and chicken and rice or something. If we could take that pizza and serve it one day and the chicken and rice the next day, then we would have less of a supply issue, as long as we can get those two items.
Perfect. A lot going on in special ed and student services, but some highlights would be we're onboarding our LVN, our licensed vocational nurse, as well as our CNAs, our certificated nurse assistants, that will be assisting us in COVID testing and vaccination clinics. So really excited, have them also helping us out with calling families on contact tracing, excuse me. Also working on professional development for our October 11th day with teachers and staff. So excited to be collaborating with the team on that. And just really overall, just so proud of the work our case managers and our service providers are doing. They're faced with a big task, right? And that's catching up with the overdue assessments that we've had, and then also keeping the records in compliance as we move forward. So I'm so grateful to be on the team and be a part of the great work that they're doing. So, and to our leaders at the school sites as well for putting in the time with the extra IEPs, reaching out and working with families to make sure that they're active participants too. So it's been good work, and we'll keep going. Thank you. That's it for me.
Started a campaign to reach out to all families who submitted that home questionnaire to really check in if nothing was marked, for example, to kind of ask those follow-up questions, or maybe there was some ambiguity to it, to assure that we identified all of those families. And so currently we're well over 200 families identified under the McKinney-Vento, which is an increase of about 65% from previous years. And so we're going to continue to do that work. I have a stack about this big of phone calls to still make that we'll do with our community liaisons once they arrive into that position. I'm trying to kind of do a few a day, but I won't get through them all. So we're really looking forward to being able to offer support services to our identified McKinney-Vento families. So excited about that, and thank you to them for their support in doing that as well. Our folklorico classes are full currently with the waiting list, which is nice. Yes, we're very excited. So again, those will begin October 1st at La Jolla and here at Gavilan View. Lots of talking with families, and our families are excited for that opportunity. So those are set to go. Hopefully you got a chance to see our preschool commercial for Little Bear Creek. It's been running quite frequently on several stations, and that has supported us in increasing our enrollment in Little Bear Creek as well. We're up to 43 students as of
nice.
yesterday. So we'll continue to do that work with Little Bear Creek as well. And then last board meeting, you guys saw a brief presentation from Kid Power. Our school counselors have been meeting weekly with the Kid Power staff, and that's been very formative in helping them to design classroom presentations as well as small group presentations around given topics of need in their district. In addition to that, because of that support we're having, they're offering us free access to all of their webinar trainings for parents that are being offered. And so I'll pass this around in a little bit, but the first one will be coming up on September 27th in Spanish around bullying prevention, and then on September 30th in English around bullying prevention. And our goal is really just like I shared last time, to start to bridge the content that we're giving to our students and our services at school with the content that parents are using at home, so we can start to develop some of that common language across the board. So we're excited for many upcoming workshops with them as well. And I'll stop there for now.
Questions or comments from the board?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. You know, Buy It for Glory Go, outreach to parents, you know. This is what we were looking for when we created this position. So I'm glad to see it coming into fruition. Thank you.
Yeah, you just said what I was going to say, but other the outreach from the Little Bear Preschool, every local store or place I stop here around here, I see the flyers. So that's fantastic. I'm glad they're doing all that outreach, and I'm glad that you're making an effort to make sure the McKinney-Vento students are getting reached, and you know, that'll help them be more successful, of course. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you to yourself. Okay, moving on to Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Donna Koenig.
Good evening, everybody. I'm excited to share with you that the FPM review has concluded. It was a great experience, and I appreciate HR, Rosa and Becky Moore and her team, and Rosa Zamudio and her team, and our sites and our TOSAs for all their support, and Ms. Alderman also for her support. Great experience. I'll be working with site principals and district staff with any recommendations to tighten up any of our processes and procedures. And just again, thank you everybody for their support and teamwork. I was able to meet with Victor this week regarding the quality of our current cameras and school safety, and discussing about school cameras. This will be on an item for you to review later on in the agenda. And exciting opportunities there, and school safety is always important. Moving along with that, our emergency two-way radios have been assigned to all classroom teachers. This came in handy actually yesterday when our phone systems had a little hiccup and went astray for a bit, and so we were able to use the radios as needed while the phones were out of commission. So it was great for that opportunity to know that they were available. We had our first curriculum council meeting this week, yesterday. We did not, we're not adopting any curriculum, particularly this year. So our attendees, we've been able to have, we're going to be able to have collaborative activities. And we did yesterday, and discussions around curriculum, looking at the data for LPAC and our first benchmark, talking about how our PLC processes are going, and what we need to tighten up with those to move forward, and looking at what our interventions look like district-wide at various sites, and have further discussions on those so we can build and bridge those programs better for our students. And through our ELO grant, we are inviting our paraprofessionals to participate in a professional development, a series of days of professional development to support student engagement and their engaging activities that they can do with them. And it's exciting to see them sign up and want to participate in these opportunities that are coming. That's about it. More on the cameras later this evening. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Thank you. First of all, excellent presentation. I'm really liking what I'm hearing regarding curriculum, and you know, this is not a year to adopt new curriculum, and I totally agree with that. I think this is a year, and maybe even the next 2-3 years, of recovery, filling in the gaps, you know, and getting our students back to the situation, they should have been in before COVID. So Please continue with the development with the paras. I know the students are going to need a lot of support, and as well as the teachers. I hope the whole district has that mentality of, we're not going to recover in 1 year. This is a long-term process. So I hope all the staff understands that and we're on the same page. As a teacher, I see it personally. There are a lot of gaps, and it's going to take time to fill in those gaps of learning. And so it's going to take a village, as they always say, but in this case, it's going to take the entire educational system to work together in a multi-year approach to get us back to pre-COVID levels. So, thank you for what I'm hearing, and please continue it. Let's get them back to where they should have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Any other comments or questions from the board? No? Okay.
Mr. Sandoval, I just wanted to add real quick. I just really wanted to thank Donna and the technology team who were able to get out computers to all of our elementary school sites that are ready to go home, that are enabling us to be able to provide both access to students, as we talked about on quarantine and our support for our families, but also access for our families to these virtual learning opportunities. I know it was a huge task and they did it really quickly. So thank you to them because it's made my work possible.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the update. No, appreciate it. Yeah, no, and I do appreciate everything that's kind of going on too. I'm hearing a lot of great things. So thank you. So moving on to Assistant Superintendent of Human Resource, Ms. Becky Moore.
Thank you. We are continuing to conduct interviews, hire and onboard staff, and make sure our job announcements and postings on EdJoin are current, updated, coordinating with principals, putting together those interview panels. And I really want to acknowledge the work that my HR team is doing on that. Charlotte Garcia, our HR liaison, and Ashley Baker, our HR specialist, are really prioritizing that aspect of our work while still managing to keep up with all of the other things that happen in HR so that payroll can happen, so that people are placed correctly, so that they can enter their absences in ASOP. So I really appreciate their help and could not get through this without them. So I want to make sure to say that publicly. I met today with our CSEA president and labor representative for our monthly employer-employee relations committee time. And I'm just very grateful to have a collaborative partnership with them and to be able to identify and address problems early on when we can handle them at a low level before they become large issues. And this week I will be orienting to an accreditation process that CSUMB is going through. So as one of their district partners, they are inviting feedback for their accreditation process for their credential program. So I'm excited to be a part of that and give some feedback and input on the credential program for the teachers that they send us. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you, and thank you for the update. I know your department does a lot right now, especially. I know when SRTA went up, they mentioned something about the COVID pay expiring. What's that in relation to? Just to have a better understanding.
Yes, thank you. It's actually state legislation. The COVID supplemental pay is the California extension of the COVID pay that was issued federally in 2020. And it was issued for January 1st through September 30th. So I haven't heard anything one way or another yet, but we are anticipating that some kind of reauthorization or something new will come to replace it. So I'm just waiting for that information. It'll probably come out September 29th at 4 in the afternoon or October 3rd, retroactively. But as soon as I get that information, I will share it out with the entire district.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, and thank you for your staff and everything you guys do as well.
I just want to say that the 7 directors that just now gave their presentation, as always, it's always impressive. That's the word that comes to mind, impressive. And thank you is just not enough to show our appreciation. And we are extremely grateful for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Alva. I really appreciate that you said that. I'm sure that's echoed by the board. Okay, moving on to the board and the superintendent. We'll start off with Mr. Sandoval.
All right. Well, first off, I got a chance to attend some in-person parent-teacher conferences, and just excited to see all the teachers and their passion for what they do. I got to see a classroom that had a safe, like a safe with a giant lock, and then a teacher told me, well, those are the bad books. We don't let the kids into those. And what it is he's building excitement for the kids when they reach a certain word level. And I thought that was genius. Okay. And of course he let me in on the little secret, but the reality is, you know, my son is reading and counting every word he's reading. So, you know, I really appreciate the fact that there's just so much passion and purpose coming from our teachers. So thank you for that. And then got to see Ms. Crouch over there. And then, you know, the janitor had planted some different trees, and they had pumpkins growing. And I think that was amazing, you know, and she shared with me that they got to eat some pumpkin seeds. And of course, that's my favorite part about carving pumpkins is the pumpkin seeds. So I appreciate that. Also got to sit in on, I think it's called, is it PK? Yeah, and I just had a chance to hear some parents say how excited they were that they came from another district and they were never given this kind of experience or this free space. And the instructor kept saying that, you know, this is, you know, it's a two-way. It's not just me talking at you. And so there was a lot of really good interactions, and they were really appreciative at that the fact that program is going to help them be more successful parents and help their students be more successful. So I just wanted to report that back. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Patel.
You know, I just want to say, I hear you. You know, I've never had so many. I mean, this year, just the parents, the teachers, staff. You know, the number of concerns raised, and all I can say is this: is that I've talked to a number of teachers from various schools, not only here in Salinas, outside of Salinas, and it seems like we're all going through the same thing. And that is, with students being outside of the classroom for 2 years, what did we expect? You know, they're coming back, you know, with lack of structure, lack of discipline. But my bottom line is, I realize that we need each other. And that is just as much as those students needed us for those 2 years. I, as a teacher, needed them. You know, it wasn't until I got back into the classrooms where I could see the struggles that our families are going through, the deaths, the heartache, the poverty, you know, lack of consistency. So all I can say to everyone, you know, who is concerned and raising their concerns is that we're doing it. We're trying our best. You know, this is the situation we're in. We have professionals who have dedicated their lives for this purpose. And there is no book that I know of, no lesson plan to, you know, to address these concerns, these issues. All we can do is support each other. That's all we can do. And so I'm relying on the staff, the teachers, the families. You know, we got to come together. You know, this is a nationwide problem. You know, TikTok with the crap that they're putting up there, and we're having to pay for it in terms of vandalism, in terms of Instagram videos of students sharing fights and this and that. God knows what they do. And, you know, cyberbullying, you know, that's just grown. So with all of these challenges, I am so happy that we do have, I don't want to say a cure, but we have a damn good therapy, and that's called education. And I'm glad to be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Ms. Arellano. Ms. Turner.
I wanted to let you know I will be participating in the CSUMB accreditation process as a cooperating teacher that they've asked us to come and be interviewed. And then I also wanted to sort of address the public and let them know that I was very concerned about proposed changes to Baranda, and we'd been involved in that for many years. And it seems like some plans that had been agreed upon between the city and the school district have not been included in what's happening. So just to let our public know that we are reaching out, just because school safety is a priority, and it absolutely, how we move students around and traffic patterns needs to put the kids first in terms of what we're doing. So hopefully that's a problem that can be dealt with before any shovels actually go into the ground.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Turner. As for myself, I was able to attend the Student Behavior Task Force. Was it 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, or a week and last week. Oh, last week. Or 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So I appreciate Superintendent Alderman and the directors for putting on that together. I think it's really innovative. It was great sharing that space with teachers and principals and stuff, and seeing all the great ideas they're coming up with to try to find solutions, and how it's going to be a collaborative effort to try to really get us on track. So I appreciate that you guys came up with that and putting that forward and stuff. So, and I encourage tomorrow's another meeting in case another board member would like to attend. It's at 3:30, I believe. Yeah, here at this room here. So that's all I have to report. Superintendent Alderman.
Thank you, and thank you for giving a shout out for tomorrow's behavior task force. So I've been working with Dr. Prather-Smith on this, as well as our other directors, Melanie, Donna, Becky, and site administrators, bringing teachers together, classified, our community, just really to formulate what our strategies are going forward to deal with issues, great and small and new. Or different, and so how we're going to deal with those things moving forward proactively and in sort of a restorative way, so that we're addressing the actual need that maybe caused a behavior, and not just doling out a consequence that doesn't meet that need to help cut down on a reaction of some sort. I also want to say that on a positive, absolutely just event planning note, we are working on a late fall celebration for our sesquicentennial, and that will involve a T-shirt, Mr. Patel, because turns out Donna Koenig used to work for Reebok and has quite a history in terms of event planning, T-shirt ordering, and delivery of product. So it's going to be amazing, and a nice soft quality T-shirt for you.
Do they need a male model?
I will call you.
I can pose. I can do these
So
things.
actually, so reaching out to Gail and Tommy Spencer, because I thought, let me call the district historian. And so he went with his contacts with the Historical Society, verified it was 1871 for me. He's got some fun information to share with us when the time is ready about our sesquicentennial anniversary and the founding of Santa Rita Union School District. So I'll keep you posted. I'm sure we're going to involve Summer in this event planning, get some nice community engagement activities going as well. Maybe tie it into the grand opening of our family resource centers, a little something for the adults, a little something for the kids and everyone in between, and really make it a community celebration, honoring the fact that we've been serving our Santa Rita community for 150 years now.
I thank you for this. I strongly encourage it. I ask you to reach out to our elected representatives. I remember when I graduated Salinas High in 1986, we were the 100th graduating class. Ronald Reagan wrote a letter to our district, congratulating us. And so I would like to see maybe, recognition from Panetta's office or superintendent's office. Schools are the institution of which all societies are built. So, we need to be acknowledged for the great work that our predecessors have done so we can be here today. Thank you.
I would just like to ask if we do have some type of parade that, just for the efficiency of our meetings, that Mr. Patel be allowed to drive a tractor.
Yeah.
It would cut down on a lot. But also, I was able to attend a presentation in Gonzales when they were celebrating, and they had a one of the oldest living graduates. And just this last election, when I got the opportunity to vote here at Santa Rita Elementary School, where I went to school, I had an opportunity to speak with the librarian, who's glad to have her library back, I'm sure. But she was sharing that her father, I think he's 78 now, I think she mentioned, was a graduate of Santa Rita. She was a graduate of Santa Rita, and her kids were a graduate of Santa Rita. So I think it'd be a great opportunity to include some of our.
Might have a centennial out there.
Okay. Well, thank you, and we do appreciate the direction that the district is going. So thank you for that. Okay, moving on to public comments. 7.1, is there public comments regarding non-agenda items? Okay, and I am assuming no public comments regarding agenda items as well. Okay, thank you. Moving on to business. 8.1, approve the 2020 to 2021 Santa Rita Union School District unaudited actuals.
All right, so just a reminder that this is over probably 200 pages, so it's really hard for me to summarize everything and, just few slides. But if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. And I'm gonna try to highlight the most significant changes just for the time being. And we'll go ahead and start. I did provide you a copy as part of the agenda, so you have a hard copy of over 200 pages now. And I put those in order with the list that we submit to Monterey County, just so it's easier to follow. So I'll go over the funds and over the forms. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. So I usually start comparing actuals to actuals. So this time, I know I always bring a budget report. This time we're talking about actuals. We closed the books for 2020, 2021. And these are our actual numbers. We're not talking about budgets this time. So in this slide, what I usually like to compare is last year's actuals to the year that we're closing, which is last year's. I don't even know what year I'm right now. I've been working like in 4 years. But I usually put the prior year with the recent close year. And I did provide my PowerPoint with my notes in case I forget to mention something. You have the notes right there. But as you can see, just an overall, we did receive more revenue than the prior year. This was due to the COVID-19 funds. We did get a reduction in our LCFF funding due to decline enrollment, specifically on the unduplicated count, as we get funded on enrollment for those, not on ADA for LCAP. And overall, our expenses also increased by $3.8 million overall. Last year, we end up with the $4.5 million surplus. This year, we end up with the $6 million surplus. So as you can see, a lot of the increases are located into the books and supplies and other services. So I did provide a list right there that you can see on the PowerPoint slide. But a lot of these one-time expenses are due to the COVID funds that we receive and due to COVID as well. So it was a lot of, Chromebooks, hotspots, protective equipment due to COVID, materials and supplies for online teaching and students, face masks, face shields, MER filters, HVACs, and you have the list right there. A big expense as well, it was the new project that we had. It was about $800,000. On that was moving and installing and upgrading our 2G for 5G on the cabling system network. I know IT is really happy about that. It was so long overdue. So this allowed the district to provide better support during the distance learning. And that also was spent out of the COVID-19 funds. So I'll go ahead and move to the next one. Then this one, what I like to compare this next slide is comparing my last budget report with my actuals. So this is going to be really hard to explain. As you see, the revenue was off by $2.8 million overall. But I want to explain this to you on a different slide because it's going to be a little bit of confusing. This pretty much was due to the COVID-19 funds. So as you can see, we did receive our entitlements. However, we did not receive all the cash, and we didn't know when the cash was going to come in. The last entitlements that we received, it was late May, and some of them were in April, so we were not able to spend all the money. So based on the government accounting rules, it's pretty much if you don't receive the money, if you don't spend the money, you don't get to recognize it as a revenue. So as you can see on the balance, I did put the balance for 2021, 2022. What that means is that $3.2 million, we were not able to get the cash this year, but we will receive the money and then spend it over the next years. So when I present my first interim report, you will see an increase on revenue because we didn't spend it this year. And yes, we knew and we had the letters, we had the entitlement, but these grants are kind of like a reimbursement grant. You don't get to earn it until you spend it. And some of them, we didn't get the cash, like the actual cash. So there's different rules for each grant, if it's a grant or entitlement. So it gets a little bit tricky when you don't know when the cash is coming. And last year, it was really difficult to budget because every week, even every day, it was different. It was like, we're gonna open. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. We're gonna. And we didn't know exactly what was gonna happen. There was a lot of changes on the weekly, daily basis. So all of that really affected our financials and how do we plan for that, right? So as you can see, because I was off on my revenue, I was also off on my expenses. And the main reason is, again, because we didn't receive the cash and because we didn't want to make cuts on those budgets on the expense side because we didn't know what was going to happen the next month or the next week. And we wanted to make sure that the money was available there in case we needed it. And that's pretty much what we work on. And that's why you see a lot of difference there. Another big change was that we were planning to settle our classified negotiations last year, and that got delayed. So it was part of my budget. I planned it to be spent last year, but everything just got behind. So a lot of the services, like stipends that we were not able to provide last year, extra hours, and a lot of services that we would provide as well with LCAP, just on LCAP, money that we didn't spend, it was $1.3 million. It was just a little bit of everything, but most of it was due to the one-time funds and the delays that we were not able to provide the services. We didn't have the cash, and it was moving funds from one sort of the unrestricted to the restricted as well. So at the end, as you can see, the great news is that we did end up with a $6 million surplus. So that's really good. Financially, because of the one-time funds, even though our LCFF it's a reduction compared to prior years, we are ending with a surplus, and financially we're stable. And the main reason for that is because of the COVID-19 funds that we received. So this is pretty much what I went over already, but just want to give you a list of the funding and entitlements that we received on 2020, 2021, the balance that it's going to roll over for the next budget year, and just for you to get a picture of the highlighted grants. Those are the grants that we fully spend out. They're not going to get rolled over. They're a done deal. We finish them, we spend them. And only the ones that we have as a balance for the next year are going to be the ones that are going to be budgeted. So
I have a question real quick. So
yes.
So on this chart here, you're just kind of showing whatever we didn't get in the last year is what now we're going to get it this year, which is the 3.2 million. There.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to clarify.
So yes. So that kind of aligns back to the 1.4 plus the 1.7 that we didn't get. It's pretty much the next slide. So now Our ending fund balance overall came up to $23 million, but out of that funds, out of those $23 million, there's $21 million that is unrestricted. Everything else is restricted. And as I always do, assign components of ending fund balance. I'm not gonna read those to you. I know I shared on the Friday letter, but I do want to highlight that we have $2 million rolling over for our LCAPs in funding. It is reserved just for to serve those specific students. We have the minimum reserves of the 17% reserve per board approval. And then we usually assign based on the priorities of the board that we usually do this for every budget report. So is that for you for review? The next one, I'll move on to the Fund A. This is new. This is the ASB. I did list it, some of the fundraisers for the middle school. They do have sales for the yearbook, so they have some deposits. We got cash donations of $2,796. And as you can see here on the list, we have some expenses on promotion, graduation, and the student garden supplies, just to give you a few examples on some of the activities that they do and how they spend the funds. Overall, we still have an ending fund balance of $372,000. So that's pretty new. It's a new requirement. And every time we close the books, we're gonna bring that update to you. Or child development, this year was a little bit different. Usually we get funded based on ADA, but due to COVID, it was great because we got funded based on our contract. So it was also treated as a reimbursement. We did spend all the grant that we received, and we end up with a surplus. The surplus is the unrestricted balance due to a grant that we received through MCOE, but the contract that we got through the state and the money that we're gonna get back, we fully spent the grant. So I'm really glad about this. We didn't have to put additional funds from the general fund like we usually do. So we kind of had a savings since the state covered that for us this year. And so far this new year, they're doing the same thing. So that's really great. I know Elia, our coordinator, did a great job making sure that we spent all of the funds on time. Yes. Yes, so the $18,000, it was due to a unrestricted grant that we received through MCOE. So that's separate from the grant that we received with our contract. So we got that one at the end of the year, so they didn't have time to spend it. But it's always a good practice to end up with a surplus, because if we have zero or we have little balance, we get charged by the bank. We get like a negative interest. So it's always good practice to have some ending fund balance in there to avoid fees.
But it's income requirements, what they classify as low income in our area, it's not necessarily the case. So a lot of people who may be at that income level where they don't qualify for state building services. So I was just curious if we have enough possibly with that scholarship or something for those who just don't need that income, so they don't have an option.
Okay. Thank you, Summer.
So right now, the state income level, it's very different than Head Start. It's pretty significant. It's pretty high. The income requirements are fairly high. If there is a share of cost for some reason or a contribution by the families, that's something that we're able to work with them on in other arenas for that, to get them additional funding through some of the grants that are available through a preschool initiative as well. We haven't had that happen yet. Most of our families who are applying, we haven't really had families who have applied who haven't met that income threshold, because it is pretty high for state preschool, unlike Head Start. It's a much higher threshold. I'll just add, it's the challenge with the state preschool is more around the requirement to be in school or in work, right? So that's part of that requirement as well. So you have to have a parent who's in school or working in order to qualify for those services.
And we also have in the past written into the LCAP that we would subsidize the, like if people had to pay partially, sometimes we've written into to cover that, but then the state actually covered it for us last year.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so that's usually we transfer that money out of the general fund to the Fund 12 to cover the fees for the students that belong to the Santa Rita area. But the state covered that for us this year, so that's great. And they're doing that again. Okay. So moving to the next fund, as you can see, based on the last budget, we end up with more revenue because we end up getting more participation on the meals. So that's great. We end up with $108,000 more. And our expenses, we spent less than we were anticipated. So that end up the fund with a surplus of $165,000. I do want to mention that initially this fund it was projected to deficit spend. And to be able to avoid that, we have to work strategically by moving about $500,000 out of this fund to the general fund to be covered out of the COVID-19 funds. If I would have left it like this and with the deficit spending, I would have done the other way. I would have made a transfer out of the general fund to here, but I wouldn't be able to use the COVID-19 funds because the COVID-19 funds have to stay in the general fund. So we would have to use the unrestricted. So to be able to utilize our COVID-19 funds, we did it backwards as we usually do. We moved the expenditures out of this fund to the Fund 1 to use those funds for COVID-19. And that's how we were able to balance the fund and end up the surplus really came out at the end because there was a savings and there was more revenue. But the projection was to kind of like make it even, right? Or revenues and expenditures. So Chuck did a great job on that and it was a team collaboration. So thank you, Chuck, for working on this and saving our district some funds. This is the deferred revenue. This is the 5-year plan that Mr. Sandoval brings to you. A lot of the difference here really was because of COVID. I mean, that's gonna be the not the excuse, but kind of like the explanation for the whole COVID year. But some of the big projects that he had planned on this fund, it was the HVAC and also the rekeying of the district. So the VHC, it was covered through Fund 01 through the Easter 2 funds. So with that, we were not able to spend it here, which is a good thing because it's savings on the Fund 14. We were able to spend those funds that we needed to spend as soon as possible. So we did use the COVID Easter 2 funds to cover the HVAC expenses. And the other big project that we had budgeted was the rekeying of the district. That one also got a delay because of COVID and the amount of work that our department had. And it was moved to this next year. I know he's looking into starting that project in December around that time when the kids are out. So that expense just got moved to the following year. That's why it's not in our actuals. The Fund 25 is pretty much the money that we receive from our developer fees. And this one, we really keep it really specific to only expenses that we spend on facility projects like the school facility analysis and things like that that relate back to, collecting developer fees. We spend less than projected, which is a good thing. We didn't collect a lot of revenue because there wasn't a lot of projects, but we do still have an ending fund balance of $152,000 on that. So the next ones, there wasn't a lot of activity. It was the Fund 35 where we have money. We have $5.1 million, and part of it is the $3.5 million for school facility designed to obtain the Sovrana school site, and then the other $1.5 million that was reserved to renovation on the Gavilan View kitchen. The Fund 40, not a lot of activity. We started some expenses to fund the 3 portables a La Jolla, and it was just pretty much what you see. It's the transfers and only $22,000. But that fund is reserved just for that project. Fund 51 is informational, is our bond information that is something that we don't have access to it, but it's part of our requirement and it's part of the county treasury. just to keep you informed how much debt we have, and most of the revenue that we get is from property taxes. The next form, let's see if this one I have to do it separately because this is a form that I have also on my one of my board items. It is the GAN limit, and this one is pretty much they use the cost of living, the ADA for a district, and they use all of that to make sure that we're not pretty much overspending, that we're not like spending crazy amounts of dollars based on the cost of living and based on the ADA. So we were able to meet the criteria for that. And it's pretty much the main purpose is to reduce waste government spending at that point. So that one's going to come in on the next item, but we do have to bring it separate, and just wanted to let you know that we met the criteria for that. Another form that I know a lot of districts in California were having a hard time meeting, it was the Form CEA. We met the minimum requirement of spending at least 60% of our expenditures in the classroom. We were at 61%, even though we spent a lot of those funds on the COVID-19 funds. So overall, with all the forms, as you can see, the TRC is pretty clean. All of the forms were balanced. We met all of the requirements. Some of these forms were really tricky because of the COVID-19 funds. I did it, I worked with my county, I worked with my auditor before coming here to you to bring this information to you. So I feel pretty comfortable about just the forms and the requirements that we were able to meet. I do want to thank, all the managers and my staff, because it gets really tricky and you really have to be very strategic when you're working with these COVID-19 funds, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you meet your MOE, that you're spending enough funds on special ed, that you're spending enough on classroom. And as soon as I was getting a grant, I would send out an email to all my management team and say, this is the grant, this is the amount, this is the timeline, and this is what we can spend it on. And as soon as that was out, everyone started collaborating, saying, oh, okay, we can use it for this, we can use it for that. And everyone was very, very helpful. And everyone was focusing on essentials, and everything, every single dollar that we spent was well spent, was on essentials, things that we needed, all of those cleaning supplies. So now that we have putting all this together and being able to see that everything is balanced, we met all the criteria. I do want to thank everyone for, working on collaboration with me to make sure that everything was clean and we met all the expectations and criteria. So thank you. Thank you to Melissa, to Becky, to Nadine, to Chuck, and to Victor and my team. Thank you so much. That's all.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I know that was a lot of information to cover with a lot of numbers and information. So we do appreciate the little graphs and stuff. And I know last year was a really tough year as far as being able to balance the budget with what we could spend it on and not spend it on with the COVID and stuff. So thank you for that. Do you have questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, 60%. That's the Form CEA, and it does like a special calculation where it takes like all of our funds and then all the codes to make sure that we spend at least 60% on classroom, on teachers, on books and supplies and all of that. And I know a lot of districts were having a hard time because of the COVID-19 funds that were not included in that form. So that's why a lot of districts were struggling. We were at 61%, so we were able to meet the requirement. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I just want to say thank you very much, Rosa and your team, for having a very good budget and keeping us solvent. It's just, I know it's hard work, and like everybody has said, it's a tough year, but thank you. I appreciate all that you do, and thanks to your team too.
Thank you.
Okay, any final thoughts before we get a motion to approve?
I just want to add my thanks and specifically things that you and Chuck did in terms of dealing with the cafeteria fund, things that I know that you did with maintenance in terms of moving things around so we could afford the La Jolla portables. There's been major times where we've had huge expenditures, but you've managed to keep it in budget and talk about what we absolutely need right now versus, what can be rolled over to the next year. I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Three things. First of all, once again, I always appreciate your conservative nature when you're creating the pro forma financial statements for us. I appreciate that, and I like to have us be overly projective in terms of our conservative nature. So I'm glad that we're not coming back. We're having to deal with shortages because we didn't expense it right. The second issue is regarding the proper and full use of short-term money. The feds gave us money for 2-3 years with lots of strings attached. And my main concern is always to make sure we get every penny, and so if we have to cross the T's, dot the I's, jump through whatever hoop, we got to do it. And I'm glad we have people in place that know these specifics so we don't lose funding. Last but not least, I appreciated your chart that showed our reserve balance, but what I really appreciated in there was that you broke it down and you showed specifically that a lot of the items were to protect our existing obligations, which is OPEB, protecting our classified, our certificated staff's retirement benefits, as well as STRS and step and column increases. So, we're providing a safe future for the existing promises that have been made. So I want to say thank you for that. I want to make sure the public knows that. So once again, we have to be able to trust the numbers, and I'm feeling very confident. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, Captain.
Ms. Alva Ariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Now moving on to 8.2, approve resolution number 21.09.26 regarding the Proposition 4 GAN amendment for the 2020 to 2021 and the projected 2021 to 2022 fiscal year.
Yeah, so that's the one that I was talking about in my presentation. It's pretty much overall to prevent government waste of funds. So it has to be in a separate item. It has to be a resolution. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval, Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, Captain.
Ms. Alva Ariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay,
Thank you.
Rosa.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on to human resource 9.1, approve one full-time employee for translator interpreter.
Thank you. And this is a new position to our district. We looked at the job description last meeting. We have an identified need for a translator interpreter who would serve the majority of their time in the special education department, but also provide some overall district services in Spanish and English.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? If not, I can get a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, Captain.
Ms. Alva Ariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 9.2, approve 6-hour paraprofessional special education for Gavilan View Middle School.
Thank you. And this position is needed due to a new need as students enter the district or as identified needs become known. We are working to make sure that we have the correct staffing to meet our legal obligations under the IEP. So this position would serve that need.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? If not, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye.
Ms. Alva Ariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Moving on to 9.3, approve 5-hour paraprofessional for John Gutierrez Middle School.
Thank you. And this new FTE would support the English Learner Program and work directly with the EL intervention teacher or the EL specialist serving English learners at JGMS.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, aye, Captain.
Ms. Alva Ariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. 9.4, approve agreement for university partnership with University of Massachusetts.
We have had an agreement with Brandman University for several years, and Brandman University has now changed their partnership for their overall university partner and are affiliated now with University of Massachusetts. And so this updates our agreement to continue working with Brandman.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion, please?
Well, first I'm going to make a comment, and then I'm going to motion. But it was just really funny because I got a. I'm now a University of Massachusetts alum because they've changed, and now they're sending me stuff. So I thought that was funny. So motion to approve 9.4.
Okay, can I get a second, please?
Before I second, I just want to comment that, I went through Chapman to Brandeis now, just to let I feel like a very sophisticated brandy now.
Nice.
Brandeis. Have you heard of this brand?
I have.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, aye, Captain.
Ms. Alva Ariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 9.5, approve a provisional internship permit for Maria Quebrado to teach kindergarten at Santa Rita Elementary School.
And I want to point out on this item that Maria Quebrado is one of our preschool teachers who received a layoff notice and helped us out when we recognized we had a rush of enrollment at Santa Rita School right as school was starting and needed to open an additional kindergarten class. She held the substitute permit and started a new class and has applied and been offered the position to continue serving that class this year. So we're excited to have her stay with Santa Rita in a teaching position. She's met the requirements for the provisional internship permit and has been on the path to earning her credential.
I do remember that, so thank you, Ms. Quebrado, for stepping up and helping the district. Any questions, or can I get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, aye.
Ms. Alva Ariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Moving on to student services, 10.1, approve contract for speech and language pathologist assistant.
Perfect. So that's essentially what we call a SLPA, a speech and language pathologist assistant. And it's really a contract to get a SLPA in place to support some of our speech pathologists that are high in number and provide services to our students.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye.
Ms. Alva Ariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 10.2, approve certified nurse assistant contract.
Perfect. So I brought 2 CNA positions to the board at our last meeting. 2 of them are still on here. We've just added an additional hour of service. This is to help support us at our middle schools till the 3:30, so after students have left campus. And then there's also an additional CNA position that will be able to help us with contact tracing, vaccination clinics, as well as COVID testing, as well as providing some support to some of our students with specific health needs.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Now can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, can I get a second, please?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, Captain.
Miss Elva Ariano,
Aye.
Miss Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 10.3, approve board certified behavior analyst contract.
Perfect. So this is a BCBA contract to support 1 hour per week and help case managers as well as behavior aides with student behavior.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? If not, can I get a motion, please?
I just a quick comment, and I'm really excited to have you on board. Maybe a little off topic, but I'm just glad to see that you're putting all the necessary people in place to make sure our students are supported. So I sincere thank you, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. A second, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, Captain.
Miss Elva Ariano,
Aye.
Miss Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, 10.4, is that Tucci? Okay, Tucci contract for student behavioral support. Thank you, sir.
Perfect. Thank you for the kind words too. I appreciate it. So yeah, this next one is a Tucci contract for student behavioral support. It's essentially a contract for a behavior technician, an aide for a specific student. So that's what this contract is.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? If not, can I get a motion, please?
A motion to approve.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, Captain.
Miss Elva Ariano,
Aye.
Miss Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to 11, family services. 11.1 is approved community human service contract.
Thank you, everybody. I'm passing around just a little bit of information. This contract I bring to you is to support us with the wraparound services for our students that in turn support our families. We know that the best place for our students to be is in school and receiving the supports that they need. So this contract with Community Human Services will bring a counselor onto our middle school campuses, full-time split between JG and GVMS, to specifically support our students around drug and alcohol prevention. It'll also be a support for our students in terms of referral for behavioral needs that could be associated with these areas as well. They'll also provide parent education for our parents around these same topics. So again, the ideas that we're supporting at school are supported in the home as well. The benefit of the contract with Community Human Services is that they train these counselors specifically in these areas to address these needs.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for bringing this item forward. Any questions or comments from the board? Can I get a motion to approve?
Just a quick comment in the motion. I want to say thank you. I've worked with ADAPT before in the high school level, and if there ever was a time, that was it. We're dealing with a lot of substance abuse problems, emotional issues, various issues at home, relationships. So I'm glad we're creating this partnership and providing the service to our students. So thank you. With that, motion to approve.
Okay, can I get a second, please?
I second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Wholeheartedly, aye, Captain.
Miss Elva Ariano,
Aye.
Miss Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 11.2, ESL classes at Santa Rita FRC Salinas Adult School.
And this is just really informative. Our ESL classes are up and running. Today was our last testing day. I believe that the last time I checked, they were close to our target of 30 enrollees, how that rolls out. So kind of on behalf of the Salinas Union High School District Board, which approved that MOU, to all of you, thank you. Salinas Adult School really wanted to thank this board for opening their facilities to provide this opportunity for our families. So I said that I would echo that. Please, again, you're always welcome to stop by 8:15 in the morning until 8:45 to 12:15 each day in the Family Resource Centers. That's not a Family Resource Center, but we're happy with it at the moment. At Santa Rita School, it has tables and chairs for learning there as well. And then I also included in there the flyer, and it's going out to our parents on a regular basis. Remember that it doesn't have to be our Santa Rita families. That's our first target. But any families that you may come in contact with, please refer them over to that. We're here to serve this greater Salinas community as well.
Yeah, thank you for making this happen. I know this is only an informational item, but this is one of the big things I wanted to do when I first came on the board as a goal. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. Actually, this worked out perfectly because I have a friend who was learning English for a long time, and I would just check the status. She goes, "Well, there's no classes," and I said, well, I just reviewed my board agenda, and now I'll give you the resource for the classes." So, anyway, she was excited about that. So, thank you for working with the high school district.
And we will be doing an evening class here at Gavilan Middle School. They just also have not yet been able to acquire teachers. So once they acquire teachers, then the single school will start a class here at Gavilan.
Thank you. Teachers needed everywhere.
Absolutely. And again, thank you. As Jacob mentioned, we talked about this for years. Just with transportation being so difficult in Salinas, being able to provide things in our local neighborhood is fabulous.
Okay, moving on to 12.0 curriculum and instruction. 12.1 approved purchase of campus safety cameras.
Hi, and yes, that's the item I discussed a little bit earlier regarding the current camera systems that we have. Some are a bit antiquated and not as accessible or as easily accessible. And with the new updated technology, we and the funds available, we have the ability to update our camera system, which will improve campus safety for all campuses, including our district and Little Bear Creek areas and our district office. So it's a great opportunity. Victor and I have been meeting about it and came up with some options that are reasonable costs that are high quality. And this will increase school safety, campus security, and overall teaching and learning comfortability. And it's just increasing the surveillance, the ability for prevention too. So it'll be great.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this item forward. And I think this is super important, especially around safety and around our schools. So thank you.
So a couple of questions. So my understanding is 25,000 is sent to MO, 25,000 worth of equipment is going to be purchased, sent to MOT, and then distributed to sites or installed at sites, or just, I'm trying to figure out how many cameras per site, what's going on?
Well, we would have 1 or 2 cameras per each site. I think our estimate is 2 cameras at each site based on the circumference of their coverage of the ones we were looking at, placing them on top of roofs and what areas they would cover and their limitations of, I think we were talking, Victor, 200 feet per each camera. So logistically looking at that, we estimated 2 cameras per site. So that would be 12 cameras, and the ones we're looking at probably would be less than 25,000 for sure. And then with installation by MOT easily, I think we were looking anywhere from the $18,000 to the $22,000 range.
And the primary.
I'm sorry.
No, go
Just to
ahead.
clarify, it's more than just 2 cameras. It's basically 2 systems per site. Each system actually carries about 10 cameras each, and that by strategically installing them in 2 buildings, 1 the administration and 2 the multi-purpose room, solely because we get a better view because of the height of the multi-purpose rooms. So basically, we're looking at 20 cameras probably per site.
My concern was, if we're going to go this route, and I totally support it, is we don't have enough. We don't have enough. For each site, I would imagine at least, considering all the different positions in the classrooms. I mean, is 25,000 enough? Are we having enough? I mean, if we're going to go out and do this, let's do it right. Let's get full coverage. I want full coverage.
And looking at that, we were looking at, again, in my correction, thank you, Victor, 2 systems for each site that have multiple cameras in each system. But we also have the current cameras that do work for those logistical areas of corners and caddies. They just don't have the range that the ones that we're looking at have. So we can get those that are out, on the exterior that are pointing angled towards those back corners where these cameras wouldn't get in those 20, 25 feet ranges.
No, I agree. I'm going to leave it to the experts on site, but my personal experience has been there's never enough cameras. And the money expenditures you put in today, the technology changes. So if you want to add cameras or add capacity later, 5, 10 years down, it gets more expensive and you have compatibility issues. So my recommendation would be, if you are going to go this route, make it expansive, make it comprehensive, so we don't have to come back in future years and have to address this again. So I think $25,000 is a little short. I think we need more coverage. I'm considering safety as well, considering, intruders, so and so, and the protection of our staff. And so for me, this is money that will be well spent, that'll provide benefits years to come. And safety is never an option, non-negotiable. So if we're going to go this route, and I totally support it, be comprehensive, go big, so we don't have to come back again.
So pretty much, if I just understand, is you're in support of this, but if you guys need to come back for more, like this is a good expense that we're willing to support it. So that's kind of what I hear.
If you're going to go route with this current system, and if you're going to stay with 25,000, the one thing I would ask is make sure those systems have capacity, and we have future ability to add that capacity. All right. Otherwise, don't get it. Go on to the larger system. But if you're going to go the cheaper route, I'm okay with that. But make sure you have that built-in ability to increase capacity for at least 5 to 10 years. And those supplies to do it will be available for those 5 to 10 years.
So Board Member Patel, these systems are standalone systems. They come with a 4K quality, so that's kind of like the best quality that we could actually attain right now. And they also come with a 4 terabyte backup system. The one thing that we can do is add more systems at a later date, once we start filling where the holes are at, and we can actually install more systems.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, I had a question. I think you might have covered this in the Friday letter, but I'm just not remembering. Is this gonna completely replace, or is this gonna fill in some of the gaps? Because or are we still gonna have the old system in place? That some of them that worked?
So our larger outdoor cameras that make up the old systems, they're antiquated. Some of them are down. Some of them don't have quality pictures. Those will be removed. We do have some smaller, newer cameras that, like Donna mentioned, are great for like close corner areas that maybe a large wide view wouldn't catch, but that we could put strategically, and those are fairly new. So those would stay in the system, but the larger, older outdoor systems, they're not all the same across our sites. They're not even necessarily the same at a particular site. They were sort of piecemeal and lumping along. So those would be replaced.
10 cameras per site?
20.
20.
Yeah. So, yeah, I echo Mr. Patel's concern for the amount of cameras. Also, as I'm sitting here and admiring how our IT department makes everything work, and thinking, long term, are these? I mean, I know they're going to be standalone sites, but are they able to be networked? So maybe at the district office they can access them. I'm just thinking of accessibility in the future. Maybe somebody will need to be monitoring them. If there's one central station, I'd like all those things to be considered. Cloud backup, and I understand it has some backup, but really making sure that when they need to be accessed, we can do that quick and
absolutely. We actually have one that's we purchased for a similar one, not the 4 terabyte, I don't believe, but that's the one that's at the MOT that we installed. And when we realized that range, and then the ability for Victor to access it when he needs to, has been quite convenient.
Yeah, I
the
guess
the accessibility on those cameras is either through my phone if I get a call at night or whatever, or we have the backup camera, or the unfortunately we only have a 2 terabyte that was available at the time. So, but it does rewrite every 30 days. So it's very sophisticated, solely because it's motion sensitive. So only when there's motion, that's when it's recording. So it does save, some of the backup stuff. So other than that, I think this is a good quality system that we've been trying out here at MOT. And as you know, we've been able to capture people tagging, the theft of the generator, just several things. So, yeah. And strategically, also, we need to really think where we put in these cameras solely because, they have to be put into communal areas only. So, as board policy says, it's only for safety at this point in time.
Yeah, and just my only concern with some of the old systems that may stay, make sure that everything's integrated. Not we might have to visit this site or that, just so if we need to do a complete overhaul, then obviously we trust your judgment, but that would be a direction I'd like to see. If we
I
need
should
to.
also point out the system that they're looking at investing in has excellent night vision as well. Sometimes there's some nighttime activities on a campus that we want to have video footage of. So they looked for one that works well in the daytime and then transitions to catch nighttime activities.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for bringing this item forward. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Okay, a second.
Second.
A roll call.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Aye, aye.
Ms. Alvariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, moving on to 14, advanced planning. 14.1, next regular board meeting will be held on October 13th, 2021. We're in October now. Yeah. So, any suggested future board items from the board?
If we could have an update, what's happening with attendance, just like a 3-year, kind of overview, and like enrollment versus attendance, that kind of thing. And
Maybe in a Friday letter, yeah.
and I absolutely know that everything is in flux and crazy because of COVID, but just kind of where we are right now.
Any other future board items from the board?
Yeah, I know that IT department's working to distribute plenty and lots of Chromebooks coming up. And I'm glad we're moving into the 5G. And maybe we can get an update on Chromebook, how the distribution's going, how our repairs work, our steps to address any issues we have with students damaging Chromebooks, or how we handle that. Making sure that everyone has access all the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other items? No? Okay, can I? Okay, sure.
Our digital connectivity is always going to be an issue. And the idea would be, why don't we have our own internet service? There's state money available. Other school sites, school districts have provided their own internet connections. It's a line of sight issue. We have a mountain right here. We're in the county. We can build with big power. I'm sure Lejo and the rest would love to do a little test project, if you will, But connectivity to me is always an issue. And if we can get state funding to help us support that, be a district that can provide internet service to all of our students, and if we can get it all funded, outside, why not? Just something, I'm not even sure, if you guys are into this or not.
I actually talked to people at MCOE about it because they said that doing all of Salinas would actually be rather easy.
Yeah.
It's the outlying counties that are difficult. The outlying parts of the county. So I know there are other people in the county that are talking about this.
I know this is also a topic of conversation for our county superintendent and about getting this together.
Other districts have done it, we're a smaller district, it's line of sight. That means as long as you have a tall enough tower somewhere, or we have this mountain right here, or at least out of sight, but to provide that ability of all of our students to connect regardless of what internet service they have at home or on their phone, and we will be able to much more control the data, monitor it, censor it, to a certain degree. And take that, and it's an equity issue. No matter what people say, it's an equity issue. It still is. I don't care what they say. Oh, we have AT&T, we have Comcast, we have a essential plan. It's all BS. Bottom line is, it's still an equity issue. And so if we can somehow do that, you know, the least amount of cost, it would be interesting to look into.
At one point, we did have it, and I can't remember why or what happened. I think it was called Razolink, something like that. And then where there was a tower, and we did. Do you remember that? No. Yes.
I remember the afternoon.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I don't know what happened that we don't have it anymore. I just can't recall. But I mean, I'm in favor of what Mr. Patel is proposing.
Doing with some of the other family resource centers is looking at our hubs, like the Santa Rita apartments, for example. They're not called the circles anymore, that's updated, whatever that apartment complex is, the circles. And working with the owners of those complexes to install central Wi-Fi as part of a packaging within that program itself. And there's lots of grants available to current complex owners. And so that's another area that we're finding. Those tend to be the areas that have least access, right? So,
No, thank you, Martel. I think that it's important to keep the conversation going regarding that.
Well, I mean, right now, the state approved a lot of money for you know, and so they're offering buckets, you know, big funding for those groups who want to go that route. So I think the funding is out there. It's just getting the right people.
Okay. No, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been hearing a lot of people kind of carrying that conversation. Yeah. No, definitely. Okay. Can I get a? I don't want to cut you off, but yeah, no.
Really?
No.
I want our viewers to know on record that this man has once again cut me off.
You
during a
know,
live
people are going to
meeting.
take that seriously. What if?
My rights are being violated in a funny sense, but that's okay.
Mr. President, are you looking for a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, but I like to confirm Mr. Patel.
Mr. Patel, the floor is yours.
I'm usually mopping.
Okay, we'll get it from you, Ms. Turner.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion adjourned at 8:08. Can I get a second?
You can get my second.
Roll call, vote, please.
Mr. Andrew Sandoval,
Aye.
Mr. Neil Patel,
I don't know.
Ms. Alvariano,
Aye.
Ms. Sarah Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Patel, for making the meeting kind of smooth along.